Every modern institution, from the classroom to the boardroom, operates on a strict framework of rules engineered to manage and optimize human behavior. These regulations typically target 4 primary domains: what we wear, how we use technology, when we arrive, and how we handle sensitive information. In an academic setting, the overarching objective of these policies is to cultivate personal discipline and build a baseline of responsibility. In the professional world, the focus shifts outward. Workplace policies are designed almost entirely to ensure operational efficiency and secure the company's assets. One environment enforces uniformity to shape the individual, while the other enforces compliance to protect the business. The moment a person graduates and enters the workforce, the parameters of institutional control shift entirely. Analyzing that transition reveals exactly why we willingly comply with certain regulations and why we instinctively rebel against others. If we map out the baseline expectations in a typical Vietnamese secondary school, we see a system built heavily on uniformity. Nationwide mandates require students to wear specific traditional attire, like the áo dài, particularly at the start of the week on Mondays. To maintain this standardized appearance, schools implement strict prohibitions on personal styling. Modifying that baseline by dyeing your hair or wearing makeup is explicitly forbidden. This control over appearance is mirrored by equally rigid rules regarding time management. In major hubs like Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City, arriving just 15 minutes late is enough to trigger a formal disciplinary warning. During high-stakes assessments, the tolerance for rule-breaking drops to 0. Students caught cheating on an exam face immediate suspension from the institution. Educators justify these stringent requirements as necessary tools for building a strong sense of personal accountability. These early academic regulations are engineered to hardwire a foundational layer of discipline into students long before they reach adulthood. Modern middle schools have had to adapt their frameworks to handle the influx of personal technology. Many institutions now require students to physically surrender their smartphones into a designated drop box at the homeroom teacher's desk at the start of the day, returning them only after final dismissal. The institutional justification is straightforward. Removing the device curbs classroom distraction and optimizes the learning experience. However, these top-down mandates frequently generate significant behavioral friction among school-age children. Teenagers consistently express deep resentment toward rigid dress codes because of where they are in their psychological development. Banning casual clothes and modern hairstyles directly stifles their need for personal expression and identity exploration. Appearance restrictions are often secondary to a much heavier source of institutional friction: massive academic workloads. As this flowchart illustrates, the aggressive requirements used to meet school benchmarks, specifically mandatory weekend classes and compulsory evening self-study, compound quickly. These cumulative academic demands push students past their cognitive limits, directly inducing severe mental fatigue and burnout. When an institution rigidly enforces massive workloads and appearance standards without accommodating personal autonomy, it inevitably breeds systemic resentment. Whether a child rebels against a rule or accepts it hinges on a single variable: how transparently the institution communicates the rationale behind it. Take playground safety rules, which are designed to prevent painful physical injuries. When educators clearly explain that protective purpose, students understand the utility of the restriction and readily cooperate rather than push back. However, this entire dynamic shifts dramatically the moment we leave the academic sphere behind and enter the corporate world. In a professional setting, the regulatory purpose changes from teaching basic behavioral discipline to maximizing efficiency, security, and a healthy working environment. Rigorous adherence to established working hours and project deadlines becomes an absolute necessity. To enforce this, companies utilize precision tools like biometric scanners and digital check-in systems to monitor attendance. Chronic lateness is no longer met with a simple warning. It is penalized directly through salary deductions. Corporate time regulations abandon the goal of teaching personal discipline and instead focus strictly on enforcing the operational efficiency of the business. Beyond time management, almost every modern industry shares one paramount operational rule: the strict protection of sensitive company and client data. Leaking trade secrets in the digital age can trigger devastating financial and legal repercussions for an organization. To secure this information, companies utilize legally binding mechanisms, requiring professionals like banking personnel to sign strict non-disclosure agreements. If an employee compromises financial records and breaches that agreement, the penalty is immediate termination. This zero-tolerance approach extends from data security to interpersonal codes of conduct. Corporations are required to maintain professional etiquette and promote mutual respect among their staff. The compliance mechanism for this is typically a set of mandatory annual training sessions focused on appropriate workplace communication and conflict resolution. The ultimate objective here is to maintain a safe, inclusive, and entirely harassment-free environment for all employees. Unlike the schoolyard, professional conduct rules are engineered entirely to protect the structural and legal integrity of the corporation, leaving no room for leniency. Looking at this diagram, the evolution of institutional rules reveals a clear trajectory. The left sphere focuses on cultivating fundamental responsibility in academic settings, while the right targets protecting structural integrity in professional sectors. Academia tolerates some developmental friction because its goal is personal growth, whereas corporate environments eliminate friction to ensure smooth operations. Yet, as the center intersection highlights, the universal solution to rule resistance in either environment remains transparent communication of the underlying purpose. Whether an educator explains playground safety to a child, or an executive explains data security to a banker, clearly articulating the why eliminates resentment. The mechanics of human discipline remain exactly the same regardless of age. Our compliance relies entirely on the perceived utility of the rule. This video is brought to you by the IELTS FOCUS 0847705973, an English center specializing in IELTS preparation.